We're asking the key question, is your company a cult?
How can you tell when your company crosses the line from culture to culty?
When do these norms tilt over into being a little much? For me, I think the big one, can I ask questions?
Are we okay getting or giving honest feedback?
Just pretend it's all normal. Pretend that didn't happen. Like, don't say a word about it. Like, if that is a relationship the employees have with the founder, that's probably more like a cult.
If you've got a culty kind of organization, it's probably operating from a place of fear. So bringing more curiosity, more openness, more awareness probably will help it to grow.
If you aren't sure if you're in one of these organizations, watch what happens to the outliers. If they get pushed out of the company, you might be in a cult.
As managers, you want to be building culture through inclusion and values, not pressure to perform or conform into some strange sort of family.
Apparently, there's a drum circle at headquarters this weekend. Are you going to be attending?
No, I'm busy. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know what's on my calendar, but I'm busy for sure.
But are you going to at least attend the poetry reading?
Oh, is that? No, I'm busy as well. I don't know when it is, but I'm definitely busy on that day.
Okay. Yeah, it's on Wednesday, and it's where we recite the poetry that was written by the founders of the company 20, 30 years ago. And so it's on Wednesday. You sure you're busy?
Pretty sure I'm busy because that's when I will be rehearsing the values of the organization so that I can recite them word perfect in front of the management team.
Yeah, because basically everybody has to memorize the values and be able to recite them at every opportunity.
Correct.
Yeah, where do those values come from anyway?
A consultant or the Big Four? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we were just sort of given them. I don't think I participated in coming up with them, right?
No, sir.
All right, by now you can probably tell where we're headed with this conversation. We're asking the key question, is your company a cult?
Every company has its own unique culture. There are norms for behavior among employees and leaders, and there are certain ways that things just get done or are supposed to get done. Sometimes these practices can make employees feel like it's all a little bit much, hence the sarcasm of Andrew and Chuck just now. So, how can you tell when your company crosses the line from culture to culty?
Yeah, because every company has a culture, where as people interact with each other, they form patterns of behavior that become norms. When do these norms tilt over into being a little much?
Well, I think it's the too much is the key thing, right? I think there's lots of things that can happen inside organizations that are meant to inspire and motivate and make people feel engaged. And it's the when they go too far, that's the key.
And I think it's a really good point too, because it is good to have a motivating relationship with whatever company you work for. It is good to have founders that you admire and respect. These are good things. I think there's human nature here where we actually, we've had like centuries, eons of belonging to religions and believing in things. Then it's very easy to see how people would want to project that onto their company, their employer, their boss. Like my boss is now my minister or something like that. I think that's, I know it sounds terrible, but
sounds awful.
I think people like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think what you're speaking to is when a workplace culture starts to resemble a belief system or a behavior system that's required of people rather than a business.
What I'm also appreciating is I think that the younger generations are pushing back against all of this. There was a mindset that I remember growing up with of like, you must be fully devoted to your company. You shouldn't ask questions. You shouldn't question how things are done. You just execute. Like that was a mindset. And I think what I'm hearing is a lot of people now are going, why? Yeah. Why should I? Or why this level of sacrifice? Which is another religious tenet for a lot of religions. You must sacrifice, right? So I think there's a lot of why.
It takes me back to my finance days. It wasn't too often, but multiple times a year there was a, hey, next weekend we're going to go and do this. the team is going to go and
Mm-hmm.
do cooking class for the weekend, or go on a hike or something and stay overnight, and it was nice. The company would put a little bit of budget together so that we could go and spend that time. But there was a little bit of discomfort around the expectation that you're supposed to do this. This is your free time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it was well intended, but it was a little wonky.
I think it's like, it's good if my coworkers are people that I would want to go out for a drink with after work. And it starts to veer into something like the too much. If now there's an expectation that I have to go out and have drinks with them after work, like we have to now, it's a thing that we must do. I'm thinking about just how much some of these company behaviors, norms, traditions, rituals get mapped onto the template of religion. And if I really think about like some of these practical examples I've witnessed, it is kind of insane. Like I think about one company where to be fair, they did a values exercise where they actually did interview a number of employees to come up with the values of the company. So it wasn't something that was just imposed from the top. They actually listened a lot. And when I was there at their offices, everybody was reciting the values. It was almost like hearing people like chanting. It was very weird. It came into every conversation. The employees were all like excited about how they could find connection between this value and this thing and that value and this, what they were doing. There were regular events, like every lunch had events that you could participate in that were kind of fun games and things you could play. And there were, for want of a better word, there were processions throughout the workday where people would sort of parade around various things that they were working on, and it started to feel like a religion.
My introvert is freaking out right now.
Yeah.
This is so
Right.
creepy.
Which part would you not like of all that?
All of it sounds terrible. Okay, but fair question. Actually, no, I gave a good answer. All of it sounds terrible. I think it's
Yeah.
I'm hired for a role. I'm hired for a function. By all means, if I make friends in the workplace, great. I think all of us have had that experience, and it's a delightful experience. I think it's the implied requirement of it that is setting off all my alarm bells. Like it feels creepy.
Yeah.
And in a world of, where like diversity, equity, inclusion, these things are so important, you can be pretty confident that people who don't like those things are going to be getting left out and may not be getting the career opportunities that they would want and so on, simply because they don't want to give more than they are, required to, or more than they should be required to.
I was feeling the awkwardness of it because I was just there as a consultant, but I would not have had the bandwidth to participate in most of it. And I'm watching these things happen around the office during the workday, and I'm thinking the constant interruptions would be enough to have me in a level of stress. Just the amount of things that you sort of, optionally could do. You could participate in this, or you could take time out of your, spreadsheets to do that. But would you do it? Like, when would you actually get the work done? That was my key question. Yeah.
So I think, what you're saying kind of like, what are some of the cult-like behaviors that show up, right? And you're talking about one, which is like high control, right? So high control in the language that's used, high control in the expectations around how time is spent. The sort of we're a family, do this for the brand kind of controlling languages. That's very, very culty, right?
I'll take a cue from that because in college, I was doing religious studies, and there was a whole bunch of units of study on the behavior of cults. One of the factors in cults is they separate you from your social environment. So you are put in a position where you can't or you shouldn't contact your friends and family. So just as an example, some of these companies move their offices to a obscure location where you have to basically move away from your people, to work there. And now you're suddenly in this new environment with your new fellow cult mates. I think this is also like part of a cult thing of like separate you from your environment. And in this case, if you have so many activities outside of work that you're expected to engage in, when would you have time for your original social life? So yeah.
Yep. Well, it also like opens the door to things like rituals, right? Which again can be well-meaning, like, hey, let's everybody connect before this meeting kind of thing. But I know you and I have seen a bunch of organizations where it becomes a sort of a, everybody needs to check in, everybody needs to take a moment, take a breath, what are you feeling right now? Let's get present, and again, it's like being present in a meeting is a good thing. It's efficient. Forcing everybody to sort of declare their inner feelings in those moments, not really efficient, probably, but also not really necessary. A little bit, yeah. So like forced, right? So forced gratitude, forced declarations, forced vulnerability or fake vulnerability.
Oh, it's interesting you say just yeah. I hadn't even thought of the check-ins, but yeah, like I can think of several organizations I was involved in where every meeting starts with a ritual of getting present or hearing everybody say a thing. And so it does start to feel ritualistic. And I joke about this, but it could be, if it's an hour-long meeting, that check-in process could easily be a half hour. You could spend half the meeting getting everybody to say a thing. And then your hour meeting is now 30 minutes because of what you've done.
And this is in that kind of organization, we're likely to see another similar behavior, which is anti-dissent. So probably somewhere it's all about innovation and try things out and be brave, but don't actually try, because having an oppositional perspective on something is likely to be seen as being disloyal.
Oh yeah.
No bueno.
Well,
no bueno.
Yeah.
No bueno.
There is the way that it's been done, or in some cases, the way I'm saying it, the way we've always said it. And I can think of several companies where people just say these things over and over again. They kind of like agree on these phrases, and nobody asks questions like, where did that come from? Does that still mean what we want it to mean? Is that actually true? Are we saying a thing that's true? How do we know it's true? Like, it starts to be unquestionable. And you notice, like I notice this because I'm always the guy that's like, hold on, what's the research? What is it? And when I start asking these questions, people often get angry because you're not supposed to, this is not questionable. You're not supposed to wonder about this. Just do it, say it, be it.
Yes. I think another behavior that we know we'll see in some of these cult-like organizations is the sort of the over-caring, whether it's a manager, a leader, HR, or whatever, or even just peers, but sort of being overly involved in people's business. I know there's a great little story I was reading about when we were researching for this topic, and someone had written this little post, and they were saying they were sick at work, and this over-caring thing kicked in. And so they were like, I called in sick and someone from HR called me and asked if they could send someone around to drop off a care basket on my porch. And they were like, what? Dude, leave me alone. Definitely don't come anywhere near my home. So it's like, again, it's like I could sort of see a caring company, yada, 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 but also like boundaries much, privacy. I don't know, like homesick, leave me alone. I could totally relate to that. I would not want someone knocking on my door when I'm taking a day off because I'm not well.
I mean, I guess I have a lot of reactions to that because on one hand, it sounds so unusual for a company to actually express caring toward an employee in that way. Like, wow, that's novel and perhaps welcome and appreciated. And I guess you can go too far with some of these things.
I think it's a spectrum. And I think this is an example of the other. I know we don't have data for that for this conversation, but I would wager that those organizations are not doing so well because they're overly inefficient in this way, right? Like those kind of things are taking away, pausing to do drum circles or walking through the office or whatever other examples you shared before. All those things are just slowing down productivity. So yeah, I would wager that they're on the other end of the spectrum in terms of performance anyway.
I mean, maybe. I'm always asking these questions. Like maybe what you lose in the moment productivity when you have people doing a procession, maybe you gain in loyalty and commitment. And maybe those people who lost work hours because of all the activities during the workday, maybe they stay late. Maybe they work weekends from home. So who knows what the actual costs are? Maybe it's better, like employee engagement in that company was extremely high, like better than I've ever seen. So on balance, I think the company was getting enough work out of their people. I'm actually still in the question of like, how was that work actually accomplished? Because I didn't see it, right?
Well, maybe, clear mission, clear values.
Yeah.
If the values are clear and they don't feel sinister and everybody's winning, okay, fine. But I think it comes back to the thing we said earlier on about when is it too much?
Well, the care basket example, because what it does is it indicates that the company is so much in your business that you can't separate yourself from your company even when you want to. Like even on your non-work hours, what are they doing? They're hunting you down. They're finding you, they're going to administer, who knows, maybe they have like magic elixirs or something they're going to administer to get you to feel better. What's in the care package? I want to know that. What's in there?
Right. A pack of Marlboros, 6-pack.
A bunch of gummies.
Right? But what? It also makes me realize, like, and this is where the line between culture and cult, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these things are going to come down to is the whole sort of not what they're saying, but how, what is the intention versus the impact, right? So the example of being homesick. If the intention is to let you know that I care about you, got your back, don't worry about work, that would probably be pretty well received. I think the way the story was told, it's a little bit more like whoever's coming over is going to want to interact with you while you're, sitting there with a runny nose or whatever. And so it feels invasive. Maybe it's just not being delivered well. Right?
Maybe it's
they're
just checking up on you.
Exactly.
Maybe,
right. So
maybe they're doing this because they actually want to know if you're really sick or you're faking something.
Right. Like, well, so you're sick. When are you coming back? So I don't know. I think intention versus impact, right? They may mean well, but it doesn't come out well because of the way it's presented.
But it gets me to think about maybe some of these ways of expressing caring are actually thinly disguised forms of surveillance, right? Like I'm going to bring a care basket to your doorstep because I'm not sure you're really sick, but if I show up on your doorstep, I can actually evaluate. So I don't know. I mean, that starts to feel really creepy, but there are a bunch of things you could do. There are some monitoring technologies that they're now implementing in some parts of the world where you can actually get your employees' heartbeat. You could check your employees' heartbeat at any moment during the workday. Could you imagine that?
This is just beyond. That's scandalous.
Well,
why? Why would you need that information?
If they were having it,
their heart rate is too low.
I know exactly. Like just to have it in your ears or whatever could make you more stressed. But like, hey, if your employee is having a coronary event, you would know and you could get them help right away. So it could express caring.
That feels like a stretch. But, who knows? This reminds me, I was reading this amazing story the other day about somebody who joined a new company. And part of the onboarding was, here's the Zoom link you need to use every morning to sign in. Like, sign into what? And like, the whole team is on Zoom all day.
Oh.
We just, like, I don't know how big the team was, but big enough to be like a bit like weird, like 12 or 15 people or something, I would imagine. Everyone's little Zoom square is on. And so if you need to talk to someone, you just call them out. Hey, John, do you have those numbers? But otherwise, people are basically working in silence with their Zoom switched on and their camera on. I know where I saw it. It was in a legal thread. It was a question put to lawyers in a legal thread on Reddit saying, Is the company allowed to require me to do this? Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I
talk
mean,
about
we
surveillance, right? So that's not a
we could
healthy
do.
culture trait.
No, I think there's a whole episode for us coming up on Zoom and Teams behavior, and so I think we need to dive deeper on this one. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the line between culture and cult. So what are we looking for, right? Healthy culture traits, creating psychological safety, having clear values, being very clear about work-life balance and boundaries. The things to look out for is really when belonging becomes a requirement, when it requires things like conformity, towing the line. Right? So there's a couple of questions that we would always want managers to be asking themselves. Like, and one big one is, are people allowed to disagree? Because if they can disagree, you're probably doing all right. But if they can't disagree, and you and I referenced some of these groups earlier on, and we've both been part of them, and we've seen it in other companies. If you can't disagree, you probably have a bit of work to do.
Well, and I would expand that out to, can people ask questions? Is questioning okay? Because I may not disagree, but if this is a thing that, like, imagine I join a company and I notice everybody says the same thing at the end of a meeting. My initial response is going to be, why? This feels like a requirement. It feels like a thing everybody's doing. Why? What does it accomplish? Do I need to do it too? So I may not be like, oh, I'm not doing that. I might just be, what is it? Can I ask? Is it safe to ask? So that would be, for me, I think the big one. Can I ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you ask questions? And it also goes with, are we okay getting or giving honest feedback?
Expanding that out as well. Because a lot of companies do have a very active founder culture. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's a little much. Can people doubt the founder or founders? Can they question even those revered figures? How revered are the founders? Are people quoting them? Does it feel creepy when people quote the founders? Does it feel like overly obsequious, or I don't know? Yeah.
The world of transactional analysis did some, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but there was some really good research on I think they called it the founder influence, but I saw this in French way back when. And so it translates to kind of like the ghost of the founders, something like that. It's kind of a cool phrase, but it was really looking at, exactly that. Are we rewarding performance or loyalty to the founder energy? Are we inviting dissent or innovation that could be in contrast to founder energy or the ghosts of the founders? So these are all like questions that we would want managers to be asking.
Or do we have to pretend that the founders are perfect? So I'll give you just a hypothetical example. It's not like something I've seen, but imagine you have a founder who's actively involved in the company. So the founder is there every day. And one day the founder blows up in a meeting, starts swearing, loses their temper, freaks out a lot of people.
I know you said this is hypothetical, but I'm literally thinking of like real people right now.
Yeah.
I mean, a number of them.
We hear this story a lot, right? Yeah. So what's the fallout from that? Because there are plenty of companies where that happens and everybody's like, just pretend it's all normal. Pretend that didn't happen. Like, don't say a word about it. Like, if that is a relationship the employees have with the founder, that's probably more like a cult. If there is a healthy culture, how would you know? Following an event like that, because founders do this sort of thing sometimes. Following an event like that, how would you know you're in a healthy work culture?
There would be an immediate response with transparency. So there wouldn't be, avoiding it, hiding it. There wouldn't be any sort of mystical goings on. I think it would be confronted and healthily explored. It would at least be named, right? So there would be an invitation for a conversation about it.
And I would also say, if this happens in a on-site setting, that the conversations in the washrooms are like, dude, what the heck was that? Like, people are actually welcome, free to say, that was insane. That was too much. That dude's lost his mind. Like, you would need the freedom for people to actually be okay to say that to each other. That's how I would know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so these are some things, as a leader, like if you see these kind of things happening around you, lead with transparency, be
Mm,
open, ask
yeah.
questions, encourage good boundaries, invite people into conversation.
Yeah. I mean,
And
hopefully we can talk about this stuff, right?
right. And if you work for a company where people ask you to lead a team chant, maybe don't do it. I don't know. Like, maybe take a stand.
I mean, there's this like, when you say something in a Zoom meeting, do you have to finish with a phrase that everybody's supposed to say? I'll often refuse to say the phrase.
like badum bum. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah,
know.
kind of like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not doing this phrase. It's too culty to me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. No.
So yeah, a really super interesting conversation. I think it's like there's a lot out here. I think being curious, bringing self awareness to the conversation is good for culture. It will always help it. I think that if you've got a culty kind of organization, it's probably operating from a place of fear. So bringing more curiosity, more openness, more awareness probably will help it to grow. I think it would just be really interesting for people to start to get curious about what kind of fear is in the system. And so that at the end of the day, it can become a motivator to move this business forward, to grow it, to belong to something.
If you aren't sure if you're in one of these organizations, watch what happens to the outliers. Watch what
Mm,
happens when somebody complains, when somebody asks questions, when somebody won't go along with what everyone else in the group is doing. Watch what happens to them. If they get further alienated, you might be in a cult. If
yes,
they get
it's
pushed
this.
out of the company, you might be in a cult.
Yep. See you later, alligator kind of energy. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I think that's the question I would ask, is like, what happens when people poke, when people ask questions, when people don't go along? What happens when people express, here's one, when people express healthy boundaries? What happens? Is that okay? I mean, boundary conversations are often awkward, but is it relationship ending? Do we stop talking to each other? Like, what happens? So I would look there. And if that's happening in your company, if you notice that you or someone else can't express healthy boundaries, can't say no to things that ultimately don't affect your work or your output, I think you have conversations that need to happen, right? Because ultimately, this is not just like, we're bringing this up not just because it's annoying or cute or overly frustrating when your company is like this. It actually can be really damaging. I mean, when people leave a company, how much therapy should they need? So it is, it is, I think it's worth asking and worth poking, right?
It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. As managers, you want to be building culture through inclusion and values, not pressure to perform or conform into some strange sort of family or whatever.
Yeah, we're a
It has to.
family.
We're a
Yes.
family. So be careful for things like loyalty needing to be performance or rituals that feel forced or founder worship. It's really good to have respect for people who've been courageous and built businesses. Watch out for that becoming worship. That can be really risky. And as Chuck said before, like watch out for questioning that is discouraged or punished.
Mm,
Good, healthy skepticism is good in the workplace.
yes, this is what I was saying. And I
Mm.
think it's also something else that's occurring to me here is, it isn't just from the top down. I think a lot of companies that are cultish, the culty behaviors often emerge from the middle of the company, not the top. So there are plenty of founders that get worshipped, even though they don't want to be worshipped. I
Mm.
think
Mm.
that's not unusual. It's like, I'm sure people were worshiping Steve Jobs. I don't know that he wanted that, but there were good reasons to admire and respect him. But I don't know that his behaviors were forcing that. And these are interesting questions.
Yeah. As we wrap this up, folks, some things to keep in mind from a good manager perspective. Okay, so normalizing work-life boundaries, of course, and model them. Model them yourself. Celebrate results. Celebrate people being in a good place. Celebrate not just the effort or the hustle, but also like the contribution, the efforts.
And allow for some humor. Can we laugh at ourselves?
Yeah.
I think that's huge. Are people allowed to leave? Is it okay for people to leave? Is it okay for people to speak well of the competition? Is that allowed?
Yeah, and avoid the so-called cool cult trap. Like having fun is great, being part of something meaningful is great, but don't do it at the expense of autonomy.
Yeah, don't do that. Definitely don't be in a cult. And if you find you are in one, you can do something about it.
Don't be culty. Don't be culty. All right, well, been fun exploring this with you, Chuck.
Yeah, you too. All right, everyone. Well, stay safe.
Stay kind.
And stay human.
Ba-dum-bum.